Just briefly, I read in the newspaper, it said you were born in Kentucky and raised in Clifton, Virginia, right?
Yes.
Just north of here.
Yeah, along with my brother and my sisters.
Who are here, thank you.
Who are here somewhere. Oh, here they are over there.
Yeah. And welcome, brother and sister. And you told me you got the acting bug maybe around 2nd grade because you were having fun as a class clown.
I don't know if it was the acting bug. I did one of those things you do in 2nd grade. The teacher asked a question. Don't ask me what it was. I made some smart aleck answer. And the whole class laughed at it. And of course, it wasn't like because I was 7 years old, I went, that's what I want to do. But in retrospect, I realized that that was the moment when, at least subconsciously, I said, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to try and make that happen again as often as I can. And just to let you know, the response to it was great from the class, but our teacher was a wonderfully kind lady named Mrs. Buckley. And what she did was, I had to go up in front of the class and hold out my hand like this, and she had a spatula. And she went, like that. And I was 7 years old, and I was crying, because it hurt real bad. And the worst part was, all the time I was crying and everything, I knew she was going to call home and tell my mother. And when I got home, it would be worse than a spatula, and it wouldn't be on the palm of my hand. And that came true as well.
So in spite of all the encouragement, you still became an actor?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's wonderful. One of the neat stories that Marvin has told me over the years that I got a kick out of was he lived in New York for a while and was actually working his way up in a newspaper and would have become a writer. And what was the name of the newspaper? They actually offered you a position, but you said, no, I want to be an actor.
Well, it was a New York Post, which I don't know where anybody here stands politically, but for me, I always like to make sure that everybody understands it was pre-Rupert Murdoch. It was run by a slightly eccentric lady named Dorothy Schiff, and I came very close to getting fired my first day there, because one of the things we did as copy boys was we took the other two New York papers, the Times and the Daily News, around to the various offices and the editor's offices and everything, and Mrs. Schiff was up on the top floor, and I took it up and put it in her office, and I came back around to get in the elevator, and the doors opened, and some gentleman said, hold that for just a second, and he and this older lady got in, and I started to push the cart in, and he said, no, no, and so I don't know what's going on. So I waited, and they went down, and I went down, and I said, sheesh, this was strange, and they said, no, 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 that's Dorothy Schiff. And he said, if you'd have insisted in going in the elevator, she'd have insisted that you not be here any longer. So I got to keep my job, and I met a really, really good writer there named Al Aronowitz, who was a rock music columnist, and I got to do stuff with him, and the editors and such liked me enough that they were this close to giving me my tryout as a reporter, and being the smart guy I was, at the age of whatever it was, 24, I said, no, 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 no. If I do that, I'll be successful and I'll never get to be an actor. So instead, I went out to California for graduate school, which I finished in '74, and I did 1 day's work on a film called The Great Texas Dynamite Chase in '74, and then I did my next job in 1983. So fortunately, I didn't waste any time being a reporter on one of the 3 daily papers in New York City.
Well, let me interject here that we're going to actually see a clip. It was hard to find, but from Marvin's very first film. It's a brief scene.
Again, a correction, if I may.
Oh, pardon me.
Actually, which they actually have here also, but we didn't make arrangements in time for you to see it. But my very first film is a film called Let the Good Times Roll, which is a rock and roll oldies concert film that was made on Long Island. They filmed 2 nights of concerts, and I went out there I was at the paper and I got the passes and took a friend of mine who wanted to be a photographer so he could do some photographs. And unbeknownst to me, there's a shot, beknownst to me now, but unbeknownst to me then, there's a shot in the movie of a split screen. Does everybody here know who the Coasters were in the song Charlie Brown? Yeah, well, there's a split shot of the Coasters bass singer and me standing there in the worst shirt I ever owned and my hair back and probably 2,400 pimples on my face, I don't know, going, why's everybody always picking on me? That's my actual motion picture debut.
Oh, I stand corrected, but you weren't cast in that one, but you are cast in this one, and I just wanted to mention it because we're going to show a clip from it. It's a film, something, if I had a choice of being in a first movie, I would want to be in a movie that starred two Playboy playmates as bank robbers who used dynamite to rob banks. And Marvin gets to be a policeman who almost arrests them. And then we're going to see...
Can I real quickly?
Sure.
I like to give credit where it's due. Two friends of mine, when I went to graduate school, it's a place called the California Institute of the Arts, and two friends of mine, David Irving and Michael Pressman, who some of you may know because they've gone on to do a lot of really nice stuff. Does people here know who Roger Corman is and was? For those of you who don't, Roger Corman was a producer who made extremely fast movies for less than $1. But a lot of people, Martin Scorsese and Jack Nicholson and James Cameron, and I forget the tons of...
Spielberg and Lucas.
Ron Howard, also Gone in 60 Seconds, you're right about that. Actually, Lucas and Spielberg didn't work for him, strangely enough, but a lot of people got their starts with him, and he let Michael and David make this movie, and I saw it in Daily Variety, which is one of the two daily show business papers in Los Angeles, and called up and talked to David, and I was just calling up to say congratulations. And I said, hi, I just saw your thing in the paper. And he said, yeah, I think there's something we can have you do. Now, usually I would have gone, no, David, I'm just calling up to say, hello, you don't have to have me in your movie. But fortunately, something said, shut up, Marvin. And I did, so I got to do this thing you'll see later. But that got me my card for the Screen Actors Guild.
We're going to show a scene from that very first film, and then not your second film, but we're going to show a scene where you work with Sean Penn. This is kind of interesting. It's a very brief scene at the beginning of the film where Sean Penn hires Marvin to help him smuggle drugs from Mexico into the States. And I love the scene, the interaction that Marvin had with the inspector, how Marvin is able to win his approval and smuggle the drugs on in. Richard, if you're ready, you can open the curtains up and we'll take a look at that first video clip.